bleeding the system. So first we're going to take this little nipple off here, and that allows me to clean it and attach my one-way valve, which allows me to not suck air back in but allow the air to bubble out. So on the top here we're going to get access to the reservoir Phillips screws to loosen them, but I had to take the front screen off because the other screw was a bit of a funny angle, so I took the front screen off. We're going to wash and clean that anyway, so I took it off. And here's the second screw. So that reservoir allows us to open it. Make sure you're on flat, even surface. Take that off. You'll have a little plastic container within there. Loosen the nut for the bleeding. There I'm attaching the little section on there now, so you can see it's basically bleeding braking system, so you don't want any air in the system. So what we're going to do is put fluid into here, allow it to go through the system and come out the bottom. So this was fairly clean, to be honest. There wasn't any gunk or anything in there, so I'm just going to start using my .4. I'm not going to pour it straight in because the containers are rubbish on these. I'm going to put it in the lid and put the lid into the reservoir. 2 capfuls is enough for each kind of section, because I'm going to basically use my brake and bleed out all of this fluid. So here, okay, that's fine. Now I'm basically pumping the brake while that fluid's in there. You can see the bubbles coming through here, but you'll see in the, I made a little shot of it, but yeah, so you see the bubbles and the fluid basically coming to this section. As soon as the fluid comes into this outer pipe, you'll see it's coming there slowly. It's basically, you want it to fill this pipe and not see any bubbles, because if there's no bubbles in this pipe, there's no bubbles in the other pipes. That's a layman's way of explaining it, but yeah, I'm pumping. I'll keep topping up the fluid as I'm doing this, because you want to keep putting fluid in. You don't want the reservoir running dry, because what will end up happening is you'll get air back into the system, which is the last thing we want. But there's a last little tip I'll show you at the end of the video that definitely ensures all the air bubbles are out. So here now I know there's fluid coming in, so I left a little container at the bottom, so if anything drips out, it drips into the container and not onto my floor. Okay, so that's all the bleeding done. I tightened the bolt back up and then everything was fine. What I'm doing now is overnight I'm going to leave it with a cable tie around the brake, back brake pushed, so any other bubbles will escape out of the reservoir on top. I'm leaving that open with just a little shell on the top to let the air escape, and that will ensure we don't have any bubbles. So that is how to bleed and sort out your braking system. And make sure you watch out the next episode. There's a lot more needs doing on this 250cc scooter. We're going to get it back on the road and it's going to be awesome.